and they was hollering before they get, like when the earth opened up and where they were, and this person over in each different section, wherever there was people over in the park, and you just hear all this like screaming and hollering. It was just crazy. Click here. Click it. Hey family, how y'all doing? I had a dream. I believe it was the dream of the end of this world. It was crazy. I never had dreams like that. I mean, it was so clear and vivid, you know? It started out with me in a house. This house I'd never seen before, but I knew it as my house. But I had conscious that I was a content maker, a content creator. So I said, you know what? I'm about to make some content. And I want to open up my front door. And the only way I could make content was these two monitors, double monitors that were together. They were like, you know, separate. You know how those double monitors like. So I'm getting ready to go out there and step out my front door to go make content on these monitors. And this young black boy came up, kind of chubby, and took the monitor over. And he started playing video games. I'm like, oh, come on. So I guess there was some kind of community monitors or something like that. These monitors that belong to the community that wasn't belong to anyone personally. And I was a little frustrated. So I said, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna take a walk. So I was frustrated, so I went and took a walk. And I walked over to this park. And when I got to this park, there was, you know, a lot of white people over in this park, you know. And I looked over to the side, like the grass, there was grass, people had their blankets laid out over the grass, but no one were on their blankets, you know, they were congregated like in the middle of the park. You know, there was something going on. I don't know what was going on in the middle of the park, what you know, they were talking about, but I didn't see any black people. But anyway, this one blanket I walked up on, it was this duffel bag. It was a green duffel bag. Now get me now, just remember this, the duffel bag was green, right? That word, green. And so I grabbed the duffel bag. For some reason, something told me to grab the duffel bag. So I don't know if I was stealing or what. I didn't think I was stealing. So I took the duffel bag and threw it over my right shoulder and then walked away. So I started walking towards home again. I don't know why I had this duffel bag. And I'm not a thief. So I'm started walking home and I'm walking, but the duffel bag was kind of heavy. So I'm like, God, this duffel bag kind of heavy. So I cut through the yards. I took a shortcut to get home and I cut through these yards. And I came upon this yard that had the back door open and there were a whole bunch of luggage in these people's backyard at their back door. It looks like they either just came from a trip and they unloaded a car and put all the luggage in front of the back door on the ground because the luggage was on the grass area. And then there was a staircase that went into the house. And I heard some people talking, but I didn't see them. So I said, well, you know what? I'm gonna take this duffel bag. I don't feel like carrying this duffel bag anymore. So I took the duffel bag and just dumped it with their luggage. And then I continued walking on home. So as I'm walking, and then I get home, and when I get home, the little chubby black boy, he was on those two monitors. He was still on them playing them video games. And I'm looking at him and he's like, this guy, you know, why don't you get off the monitor so I can make my content, right? So I go to my front door, you know, and it's like the monitors were like, okay, if you want to know where they were situated on the, like on a curb, like he was on the sidewalk, just off the sidewalk, close to the street a little bit. And the monitors were on these stands and they were up high and, you know, they were situated right off the curb. So anyway, I walked in my home and I walked into this room. It was like the living room and it was all dingy looking, like, you know, and I saw bugs, these flying bugs. They were on the wall. There was no furniture in the room. Now, it didn't look like that when I had left home. I had furniture in there, but it looked like a totally different room, somebody's totally different place, but that was my house at that particular time in that dream. There's bugs on the, flying bugs on it, and one looked like a dragonfly, and they were just stuck all on the walls and stuff like that. So I said, you know, so, you know, try and scare them away, and they just was flying all around, and I'm like, oh man, it was just, you know, too many of them. So I go out the front door real quick again, and then I look, and that little chubby boy, I see him, he's riding off. It looks like his brother. Now, I knew it was his brother. I don't know this child. I didn't know his older brother. The older brother looked like he was about 2 years older than him. Now, the chubby black boy, he looked like about maybe 8 years old, 9 years old. His brother looked about maybe 12 or 13. So his brother had him put him on his moped. He had told him to jump on his moped, and they were riding off together. So as soon as I came to the front door, they were riding off together. So I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Now he's off. I want to make content, but I can't because I got all kind of bugs in my daggone flying around in my living room, which I think is my living room, but it doesn't look like my living room. So anyway, I decided to walk back. My conscience got to me, and I thought about the duffel bag. I said, you know what? I'm going to take that duffel bag back to those people. I don't know why, but somehow I knew the duffel bag belonged to a white lady. I don't know how the duffel bag belonged to a white female. I didn't know. So I said, let me just go get that duffel bag and take it back. So when I walked to the house where I left the duffel bag in the backyard, the people were still in there. The people were still in there. So then I was getting ready to grab the bag. Their luggage was still back there, mind you. I was getting ready to grab the bag, and then out come from the back, there was a white guy and a white woman, right? So he was like, hey, so what are you doing? I said, that's my bag. I dropped it off here. He said, oh, okay. So I grabbed the bag, duffel bag, and I threw it on my shoulder, and I started walking away, and I'm like, wait, man, this duffel bag seems a little bit too light. So I came back to him. I said, hey, this duffel bag seems a little bit too light. Did you go in this duffel bag? And he's like, oh, yeah, wait a minute. So he walked to his backyard, and he came back with some hair gel. You know, just hair gel. And something else, it was like a belt or something. It looks like, I don't know what it was, but I can't make out right now because I remember it was yellow and it was long. So I put it back in my duffel bag. I put it back in the duffel bag, and I felt the weight, and I was like, yeah, that's how it felt. That's how it felt. Yeah, that's how it felt when I first took it. So I started walking. I walked away, and I started walking towards the park. Now, I'm walking towards the park. And as I'm walking towards the park, there's an entrance in, like, kind of like, you know, the park entrance. There's a street that goes in, and there was these two huge bushes, one on this side, one on that side, to the entrance of the park that was kind of coming out toward the street a little bit, you know? So you had to, it's like a gateway, really. Like, you had to go past those bushes in order to get into the park from the road. So as I'm walking towards the park, I look to my left, and there's this white female sitting on the stoop of her house. So I ain't paying much attention. I just looked at her, you know, and just kept on walking. And when I looked at her and I turned to my right to look at the entrance, because I'm getting ready to walk out, because I'm walking now, mind you. I'm getting ready to walk out into the street to pass through those two bushes. But just before I get ready to step off the sidewalk, and I'm just about a little bit past the white female to my left that's sitting in front of her house on the stoop, I looked over to my right, and in the bushes, there's a guy with a green hoodie on. There's that color again, green. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm looking at him, and he's just looking at me. And he slowly raises his hand up. I'm like, what is he doing? He had a gun in his hand. So he started shooting at me, pow, 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 like that, right? So I told the white female, I was like, he's shooting at us. He's shooting at, you know, I was yelling out to her. She jumped up. She ran toward her front door. I ran towards her front door right after her. I'm right on her tail, running towards the front door, right? So she opened the door, and just before we get in the door, I look back, and the guy that was shooting at us, he kind of like went back into the bushes. You know, he stopped shooting, he kind of went back into the bushes. But just before we go inside, because the door is open, and this all happened in one motion, I'm looking back, we're still moving, running inside the house. The guy is moving back to the bushes where he came from, I guess. So just as we were getting ready to step in the house, the ground started going like this, like shifting. The whole house was shifting. I'm like, whoa, you know, we kind of lost our balance. So we finally got in. When we got in, she shut the door and she said, earthquake in the house. So out come from the back comes another white guy. I don't know if it was her man or whatever, and another white guy beside him. You know, they look similar. They could have been brothers or something like that. I don't know. And she said, disconnect the pipes, disconnect the gas pipes. She was just yelling, disconnect the gas pipes. Because I guess she was afraid that, like, that earthquake, when it started vibrating and shift the house, those pipes going to break, and that natural gas is going to kick off, and, hey, it could be an explosion. So he's steady trying to unscrew, you know, and the house is going, I'm like, oh, heck no. I ain't staying in here. They got natural gas and them pipes. They got a gas. Because we were in the kitchen. Because, like, it was weird because the door led right into the kitchen from the front. So she was like, disconnect the pipes. And I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, I'm out of here. So I go out the front door, and when I never forget, the door had a gold handle. And as I leave out the front door, as soon as I get out the front door, I step on the front steps, and I stop just like that. The house that we were in was elevated about 3 to 4 stories up away from the ground in front of the house. But the earth had shifted. So part of the earth, the house was sitting on the earth, the surface, but the surface had elevated. So part of the house was sitting on this, and the other, it had ripped, tore apart. The front separated from the foundation of the house. So the foundation of the house was way up. And I'm like, whoa, like that. And I'm looking, and when I look, the house started shifting, going more towards from vertical, start shifting towards horizontal. And it was like, and I'm hanging on the doorknob. I'm hanging like this. I'm like, oh no. And I'm just hanging. The earth split apart. I mean, and I saw all this like red and black looking. You know how charcoal looks like when it's like really heated up and cooking good on the grill, that charcoal, and it has that red light illuminating it like that. That's how it looked. I mean, it just split apart, and you could see all the way down. You could see forever into the depths of the earth. I don't know, to the core or whatever. And it started breaking up all over. And for miles and miles and miles and miles, you just hear people screaming and hollering and stuff like that. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm just like yelling out loud to myself. And I'm hanging the whole time. I'm hanging onto that doorknob, right? And I look to the right and look to the left, and I just see people, like the heat was so intense from the earth that people were just melting right there on the spot. They didn't even get a chance to holler. And I mean, it's like when it hit them, you know how something hit you and you go on the pain, like, none of that. Soon that heat hit them, they just like, and it just melt just like that. I mean, like immediately melt, not no slow melt like a candle. No, they immediately melt. And I'm looking around and people are just melting all around. I'm hanging there, and it's weird. I didn't see no black people. It's really weird. There were no black people. And I mean, just people all around just melting. And they were just hollering before they get, like when the earth opened up and where they were, and this person over in each different section, wherever there was people over in the park, and you just hear all this like screaming and hollering. It was just crazy. But the crazy part about it, I didn't melt. I'm still one piece. I'm just hanging from the daggone knob, the doorknob, the front doorknob of the house. So apparently the earth shifted. The surface where the house, the foundation, that the surface that the house was sitting on, that part of the surface started shifting, and I'm hanging. It was horizontal. I don't know how that house was able to hang on to the earth, to the surface. But it did, and I'm just hanging there. I mean, it's like it wasn't completely upside down. It was like more on an angle, and I'm just dangling. I didn't melt. It was the craziest thing. But I'm gonna tell you something. It was more horrifying than what I'm explaining it here, because some things are not best explained in words. You know how it is with the spirit and stuff like that. When something happens and something, you get an impression of something like that, a lot of things are hard to put into words, because, the verbal communication is the worst form of communication, really it is. Telepathy, yeah, but verbal communication, no. So anyway, that's my dream. I mean, I noticed, and I don't know what that dream meant. I never had dreams like that. Now, I don't know if I traveled to if I was in a parallel universe, and I was seeing through the eyes of myself in a parallel universe, in another world. They said that there's multiple universes, so there's multiple us, individuals in different universes. I was wondering if that universe crashed, if things happened there, in that universe. Was that particular world in that parallel universe destroyed? Are we next? That's the whole thing that tripped me out. If it destroyed there, are we next? Or is that a sign that this is something that's about to happen here? I'm telling you, I don't know, something's going on. Maybe that dream's telling me that something's about to happen. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you one thing. It scared the hell out of me. Yes, I said hell. It scared the hell out of me. I don't ever want to go to wherever I went when I was in my slumber, when I got into my REMs, I don't know. I don't want to see that again. Anyway, that was my dream. If someone could interpret that, comments, maybe they have an idea what that dream meant or something like that, I would surely appreciate it. And for those who are watching my video for the first time, please hit that like button, hit that like and subscribe. I would truly appreciate it. But if someone out there can interpret this dream, because I have no idea where that came from. I wasn't even thinking about stuff, anything like that. Didn't see a movie or anything. You know how they say sometimes you watch a movie and then you something happened on in life and then you dream about it. Nah, I don't believe that. I believe it's deeper than that. So anyway, that being said, that was my dream.